today's numbers don't help this argument, right?
Yeah, inflation is sort of the albatross here that just won't entirely go away. And this, as the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Jared Bernstein, just said on the program here, there has been, if you look at it over the past year, there has been progress made, but it's still sticky enough that people aren't quite feeling it. People don't process economic information, especially inflation, in terms of the core inflation rate that Mr. Bernstein was just talking about. Mm-hmm. They think about, okay, what did things cost before the pandemic, and what am I paying for those same things now? Mm. And that's a harder thing for Joe Biden to shake, especially now we are 6 months away from an election. People are really starting to pay attention, and they're really starting to form their opinions about how good this economy is and if they're better off now than they were 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, and President Biden also has the kind of headache, if you will, of having a lot of policy that has not yet taken hold to be tangibly seen in terms of infrastructure or other elements of the Inflation Reduction Act, though certainly he tries to talk about them a lot. We have a fresh question today as to whether or not he'll be trying to talk about that policy and perhaps policy difference with Donald Trump on the debate stage.
Yes, right.
In the future, because President Biden on the Howard Stern show today said he's up for it. This is him earlier today.
Can I tell you a fantasy I had?
Sure.
I don't know if you're going to debate your opponent.
I am somewhere. I don't know when. Yeah. I'm happy to debate him.
And then we heard, Gregory, from Donald Trump outside the courthouse as well as on True Social. True Social, he said anytime, anywhere, any place, even suggested the venue tonight of the courthouse in New York. Is this really going to happen?
I mean, it's sort of remarkable just because in any other election year, the incumbent president saying, of course there's going to be a debate, and his challenger saying, well, of course there's going to be a debate, would not be news because we would just expect that. But we can't expect that this year. The Republican National Committee has an official policy that their party's candidate does not participate in debates. They're sore at the Commission on Presidential Debates for a number of reasons. And then you have had the Biden campaign for months now being non-committal about whether the president will participate. So now we have both candidates on record saying they want to participate in the debate. But, the Trump answer there just sort of underscores the split-screen campaign we've been seeing in that Trump actually came out and said, look, I'm happy to debate him, but he's got to come to the courthouse in Manhattan because that's where I'm tied up right now, defending myself against criminal charges.
And that's, entertaining. That's a good line. Obviously, he wants to do the whole, why don't you come here and say it's in my face routine because it's Donald Trump. But the fact is, we've had no real conversation about rules around a debate. There's a big preamble that goes into this planning. To your point, they've got a problem with the commission. Gregory, we could really have a campaign with no debates in the end. Isn't that right?
The commission has set the dates and the places for these debates. Yeah. So it's just a matter of the campaign showing up. And by the way, any candidate that gets 15% in the polls can show up. So there's a question of whether Robert F. Kennedy Jr. might be able to cross that threshold and show up. Maybe you'll have 2 out of the 3 there, but not the third. But yes, we're in this phase that the political strategists call the debate about the debates, the meta debates. Yeah. Because even though we know the time and place, we don't know who the moderator is going to be. They'll negotiate everything down to the length of answers to the height of the podiums on that stage. And there's going to be a lot of reasons why either campaign might eventually back out on short notice. And we may or may not have these debates. It's not a foregone conclusion.
Debate about the debate. Bloomberg's Gregory Korte, thank you so much for joining us. Plenty to talk about in domestic politics today, but also in geopolitics, as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on his way back from China right now following a meeting with President Xi. And the tone was confrontational.
If we don't see a change, we have, in the case of the United States, we've already imposed sanctions on more than 100 Chinese entities, export controls, etc. And we're fully prepared to act, take additional measures, and I made that very clear in my meetings today.
Bloomberg's Megan Scully is joining us now. She leads our congressional coverage, and we were speaking with one of the kind of China hawks in Congress, if you will, yesterday on this program. The ranking member of the China Select Committee, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, was with us, and he was like, this is an area of bipartisanship. Our committee perhaps does the most bipartisan work of any on Capitol Hill right now. Everybody wants to be tough on China, whether it's tech policy and a TikTok divestiture ban or otherwise. When they come back next week should we expect that China is going to be one of the few areas in this election year that they'll be able to continue to work on?
We're going to see them continue to do things like investigations. I'm not sure how much we're going to see in terms of actual legislation. What happened with TikTok, I think, caught us all by surprise in terms of how quickly it moved through and with tremendous bipartisan support. There's nothing quite in the pipeline like that, but it is still going to be a huge part of the conversation. It is bipartisan. That committee, the China committee, doesn't actually have any direct jurisdiction, unfortunately, for their members. So they don't have a pipeline through which they can funnel out legislation. And we're getting closer to the election, so we're going to see less and less legislation moving. But the campaigns, the presidential campaigns, are trying to outdo themselves in terms of China policy. You know, you have Biden going to the Rust Belt and saying in Pennsylvania, a state that he desperately needs to win, that he would triple tariffs on Chinese steel. And then you have Trump saying that he would put a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods coming into the U.S. So there is bipartisan cooperation, and it's also a hot campaign topic.
You lead our congressional coverage here in Washington, and I'm kind of amazed that we have had such a concerted debate about Ukraine funding and actually Israel funding, with a lot of upset among progressive Democrats. We've spoken really very little about funding for Indo-Pac and specifically Taiwan. We're talking about a lot as TikTok made a lot of news. But the funding for Taiwan elsewhere in these spending bills drew what kind of reaction from Beijing? What kind of a message are we sending there?
Well, I think it's all sort of packaged together in these tensions, right? You know, the tensions with China escalated last year when we shot down the weather balloon, as I'm sure we remember all watching that.
Yes.
And then things have stabilized, but we have had sort of this escalating, you know, because it is a campaign year, because of the money for Taiwan.
Right.
It was
a statement in itself.
It certainly is, as is the curbs that we're putting on China for producing microchips and importing them. So it's all wrapped into this larger national security debate. Yeah. The attention has been on these other issues, particularly on the tariffs and on TikTok. But I do think that certainly the money for Taiwan is ruffling feathers in Beijing.